So we've got 3 committee members. Have we got any apologies? Belinda?
No, Chair, there are no apologies at this point in time.
Okay, because we've got 3, we've got a quorum. Meeting should be very quick. But so I'll start. We can't co-opt anyone because we haven't got any additional members, elected members.
Can you see me? But I can't hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Glenn. Yeah. We've got Alderman Thomas. Hi. We're all having connection problems today. Can you hear me? Oh, we'll just wait to. Can you hear me, Alderman Thomas? You need to unmute yourself.
Okay, I am unmuted. Thank you.
Very good. Okay, we have now got 4 members. So we'll move on. Confirmation of minutes. Would someone like to do that?
I'll move that. Thank you.
I think Councillor Sherlock got in just slightly in front of you, Alderman Thomas. So
thank you.
Those in favour say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it.
So can you see me now, Ado?
So we'll go on. We do have a deputation on for 6.2, but we'll go on. There's no supplementary items. Is there any conflicts of pecuniary or conflicts of interest? Being none. Any transfer of agenda items? None. So could we just have a motion to say that we will consider the deputation and we'll look at 6.2 first. Thank you, Councillor Ewan. I put that. Those in favour say aye. Those against say no. We have got coming on board now the deputy. Good day, deputy. We're about to call upon the deputation to come out of the waiting room. Okay, I think we're there. You'll need to mute yourself. Okay. We can't hear you.
Just unmuted us.
Welcome. Would you like to make a start of your presentation, Mr. Mockerton? Now, Craig, have we been able to get the audio working for the deputation?
Yep. Can you hear us all right now?
Yes, we can. Thank you. So you've got 5 minutes, and the councillors present and alderman present is Alderman Thomas, Deputy Lord Mayor Burnett, Councillor Ewan, and Councillor Sherlock. So when you're ready.
Right. So David Monkton, number 12, and
I'm Stuart Edwards, I'm in number 6.
And we're representing the street because Peter Hill is in Sydney, and he's what, number 18, I think.
Yeah.
And we would like to make the point that 90% of the residents of the street have signed a petition requesting trees in the street. And of the 3 residents in the street that we know of that did not sign because they were concerned about a tree in front of their own properties, but they were not negative to the idea of trees in the street. So I believe we have a very strong support in the street for trees in the street, and I would ask Stuart to talk to that as well, because you've spoken to
well, I only took to talk with the residents in what I call half the south of the street. That is the half that is between the middle of our street, Rupert Avenue and Main Road. And there's one lady who has a very old house, Joan. She lives next door to us, and she owns one of the flats in Rupert Avenue. And I also spoke to the residents in there, together with the other residents in that bottom half of the street. And The only concern that one particular resident has is that with what is happening where Blue Gum High used to be, with the development that is now a hole in the ground, it's been a hole in the ground for some considerable time, is going to have a facility that enables an occupant to have one car park space below or behind that building. Now, I know from the fact they're going to be residents, where they're going to park. The nearest place they want to park is probably Rupert Avenue because it's close, if not Commercial Avenue. And we have 2-hour parking restrictions for residents on one side of our street, but we would consider, as from input from this one particular resident, Peter Fromberg, in number 5 Rupert Avenue, that both sides of the street made 2-hour residential parking with certification issued at no cost from the Hobart City Council. But the rest of the people that I spoke to are very much in favour of having a tree-lined street because it is a wide street, and beautification is something that I think is always great for any suburb, particularly that close to North Hobart. And speed humps may become a consideration for the council because there are many people who traverse our street at above 80 kilometres an hour on a daily basis, because it's a bit of a shortcut from Main Road to Lenna Valley to Augusta Road and back. So there's a couple of considerations in there from not only Peter Fromberg at number 5, but also from myself and some other comments made by some of the other residents.
Yes, I think overall the street is really very, very positive about trees in the street and would like them in the street. Recognise we had a meeting with the council and they said not in the trees in the pathway would not work because it's not wide enough, and we agree with that assessment. And we're pretty much in council hands in terms of what would be a good solution. And I think if council come up with a good option, I think we'll get 100% acceptance by residents in the street for trees in the street, and really hand over to you guys.
Thank you, David and Stuart. Appreciate that. And you're probably aware that the general feeling amongst elected members is we should green our streets if we can. And obviously we know beautiful green streets around Hobart are quite an asset to the city. So are you aware of the report and the recommendation of the report of the council officers?
No, but we would love to see that.
Yeah, it is on the agenda papers. It's available through the website, but essentially the recommendation to the committee tonight is that the city undertake detailed investigations design work for the potential installation of new street trees within Rupert Avenue. But there are a whole heap of things that they would have to look at. I would suggest you look at that recommendation. I'll open it up for questions from, if there's any questions from the members of the committee. Anyone? Yes, Deputy Lord Mayor Burnett. Thank you.
Thank you, and thanks, Mr. Monckton and Mr. Edwards, for your deputation. I suppose, you know, it's a matter of working out the priorities across the city with the street planting, of course, and it's good to hear that residents are interested. I'm just curious because, I mean, this report suggests that it's the footpath isn't wide enough to accommodate trees. And if there were trees in parts of the road, you know, for example, taking some of the parking in the street, presumably you wouldn't mind that kind of arrangement?
No, we would be very happy with that arrangement. I mean, there are 3 residents who are probably less happy about that idea, but might come on board anyway, I think.
Good. Now there were some others who welcome the Lord Mayor, Councillor Reynolds. Thank you. Any other questions? Don't think. Oh yes, Councillor Reynolds.
Oh, actually, it's more one for the staff actually, so I might save it till then.
Thank you. Now you're quite welcome, David and Stuart, to stay on on Zoom while we discuss this, but
We'll
unless we have
mute,
any
we'll
questions-
mute and we won't interrupt.
Oh, good. I was going to say that is the rules too, unless the committee determines otherwise. Your role is over now for the moment. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jeff, but we're not permitted to listen to the discussion you're about to
Oh,
have.
yes, you
I would
are.
like-
Yeah,
I would
you're
very much
permitted
like
to listen in, but not to
we,
contribute.
we, a pair, will not interject.
Good on you.
Thank-
Thank you.
Thanks very much,
That's
Jeff.
what I imagined. Okay, so open the item for discussions. Councillor Reynolds, you had a question for the staff?
Yes, I did. Just around the width of the road, is it a consistent width? Because it said that there's not enough room in the centre of the road, but often that's where there is sort of less services sometimes, because services tend to be closer to the footpaths. But I mean, what is the width between the curbs in this street?
Lord Mayor, I haven't got the actual width available for us, but certainly the plan that is in the report in section 4.2 on page 11 does show a consistent width. The issue with putting the trees down the centre line of the road is a double barrel one. Not only do we need to look for services under the road, but we need to make sure that the trees are not in the way for folk who are turning into their driveways. So the placing of the trees when you're actually turning across the road is quite important as well. So putting the trees down the centre of the road can be more problematic. It's certainly something we look at. And as the report suggests, we'd be very keen to work with an enthusiastic group of residents to look at where and how we can accommodate the trees. The report suggests it's most likely that we are going to have to look at taking some of what is currently utilised as car spaces, but we would exhaust all options to see how we could get the trees. And our preferred approach is to have an avenue of trees, so we do get that consistency through the street, whether it's down the centre line or on the side or however. But I haven't got an actual width, but what I would say is from a staff point of view, we'll do everything we can. I guess the other point, Chairman, if I can, it is an expensive exercise in getting trees in the road. We've certainly got a lot of examples now where historically the council haven't planted the trees in a way that has protected the infrastructure, both the roads and the footpaths. And I've had this conversation with the Lord Mayor when we've been in the car driving around. So what we're doing now is making sure that we do plant trees in a way that where the tree is going to thrive, but thrive in a way that protects the infrastructure around it. So that does mean we need to take our time, we need to get the locations right, and we need to make sure that the actual installation of the tree is done in a way that is for the longer term. Chairman, while I've been talking, I've received a text that suggests that the actual width of that road, Lord Mayor, is 10 metres.
Right, thank you. That's a very, yes, Alderman Thomas.
Yeah, look, thanks, Chair. Look, I think I'm very happy to support this recommendation. And I thank the two gentlemen for their presentation and the fact that they've managed to garner all that support in the street. And I hope that we can progress this as quickly as possible. So I'll move the recommendation on the books.
Thank you, Alderman Thomas. Any further questions? Yes, Councillor Sherlock.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chair. I just wanted to reiterate once again what Alderman Thomas has said. Thank you very much for your comments tonight. And I think it's really great that you've actually got a lot of support from the street. I also wanted to note some of the recommendations in the report, which I think are particularly important. So this is not a question as such, but comments really, that at point 1, it was talking about actually having that local area consultation and engagement. And for me, the other 3 things which are really important, which is the traffic safety audit and traffic impact assessments, and also how that will impact on street parking, and also the cost of this as well. So thank you very much for that, and thanks to the officers.
Yeah, and thank you, Councillor Sherlock. And I think the Deputy Lord Mayor would like another comment or whatever.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. It's a question through you to Mr. Doyle. Mr. Doyle, we have the option of having planter boxes, or residents having planters on footpaths where it's possible. Is this an option in this neck of the woods?
Deputy Lord Mayor, two things I'd say about planter boxes. They are a less preferred option. Trees do not do well in above ground planter boxes, generally because their root ball is more restricted, and it's the temperature varies, and it's just not a good growing medium. The planter boxes are far better for smaller vegetation, shrubs or annuals and the like. The other thing with planter boxes, they actually tend to take up more room on the footpath than a tree trunk. And so when we've got a narrow street where we have difficulty accommodating a tree itself, then the planter box can take up more room. The planter box can be really useful if we've got a lot of services under a wide footpath. But in this instance, I suspect it may not be a solution. What we might do, and again, as Councillor Sherlock suggests, there's a lot of consultation and design to go into this, but we might look at perhaps some curb bulbing, where we look at extending areas of curbing around to accommodate the tree rather than a planter box itself. I'm not sure if that helps.
Thank you. I now intend to put the motion that's on the books, and which covers the issues we've talked about tonight, but essentially if it passes tonight, then a detailed investigation design work will be undertaken, and subject to a number of conditions, and consultation being the most important, as well as the design. So I intend to put that. Is there anyone against the motion? Being no one against the motion, I declare the motion carried unanimously, and I thank again David and Stuart for presenting this and organising the petition to council. Thank you very much. You're happy to stay listen to the rest of the meeting if you want, but generally people do leave at this stage.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Much appreciated.
Thank you. Thank
you.
Chairman, if I might, just before the gentleman exit, that will be a recommendation to the next council meeting.
Wonderful.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good. Thank you. Now, I intend now to go back to the agenda in order. So we're to the decision about whether we continue with Zoom. And perhaps I'll show a bit of bias. I think it is very convenient for us to with Zoom, because we usually, lately we haven't had too many agenda items, and we can be dispersed. So we generally have got better attendance at Zoom meetings. So, and the other thing is, perhaps we should consider, if we do continue with Zoom or physical meetings, consider if it's continuing with Zoom meetings, then perhaps we should consider a 5 o'clock start, because I think we had the 5:15 start to allow people to travel from their workplace to here. So is there anyone like to move a motion of supporting continuing Zoom where we can? The only other, there's quite a few people. I think Councillor Ewan got in first. The only other thing is that I'd like a discretion as the chair, or whoever's the chair, and I'm happy to be the chair at the moment, if there is a major contentious item or a lot of delegations. As you can see, it's very hard to hear a delegation, that would leave a discretion with me to say the next meeting would be a physical meeting. So would that be okay with you, Councillor Ewan, that if you move a motion that we continue with continue with the Zoom meetings with a chairman's discretion in the unlikely event that we do need a physical meeting? And I'm sure Belinda will contact me and ask me whether that's fine. So would you like to speak, Deputy Lord Mayor?
Yes. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I mean, I have some sympathy with that. I mean, I think that discretion left to you is kind of left to the last minute. And whilst we've still had fairly short agendas, I suppose. I just wonder when we ever think about sitting down together as a committee and nutting things out, like actually having that discussion about strategic issues. Obviously, we had that session with the CEO yesterday, which I found really useful. But we tend to get through some agendas very quickly, and we never seem to sit down and really nut out things. And I just think that's a lost opportunity, and something that we should probably consider if we're going to be an effective committee. And using committee structures well.
Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor. I suppose in responding to that, I think probably once the COVID pandemic is declared not an emergency, then we won't have this opportunity to do Zoom meetings anyway, unless they've put something in the Local Government Act that allows us to do Zoom meetings. But I take your point. Maybe we should have a meeting like you suggested, a physical meeting, so the normal meeting should continue to be Zoom, I believe, at this stage because of convenience. But look, perhaps next time we're together, maybe around a council meeting or after a council meeting, we might discuss it a bit more fully, how we organise that. So is there anyone who doesn't wish to continue with there we are, Alderman Thomas, is that a hand up?
I'll go with the majority, but I do think we ought to be reverting to face-to-face. I think for the reasons that the Deputy said quite clearly, the chance to talk in an open meeting is a lot easier than punching in and out of the Zoom meeting. And look, obviously you've gone in today, unless you've got that as your new background.
Certainly, yeah.
And look, I just think, yeah, I echo that. And the Lord Mayor's clearly in the building, so I'd be going back, but I'm not going to die in a ditch of it. If there's a majority going for Zoom, I'll stay with Zoom.
Yeah, I think we could say we could review it in after 3 months, say 3 more meetings. Yeah,
that's
we could
fine.
review it. Could we build that into your motion, Councillor Ewan? So we review the situation after 3 months. Okay, look, I intend to put that as a vote. Sorry, is anyone? Yeah, perhaps I should have a vote. Those in favour, just raise their hand.
Sorry, I've had my hand up for a while. You can
sorry. Sorry, I'm trying. Would you believe the screen is very messy today, and I don't know where people are coming to. Yeah, sorry, Councillor Sheila, go ahead. Sorry,
no
I didn't.
Look, yeah, I'm more than happy to have it on Zoom. It's more convenient for me as well, and I think that we can still discuss things whether we're in person or we're online, but that's just my opinion. I'm happy to go with the majority as well. Unfortunately, I'll have to keep it at 5 due to other work commitments, though, if 5:15, if that's okay, instead of 5.
Right. So perhaps we've got to have, I think we've got to, perhaps we should divide the vote into 2 parts. But also I think we should have consensus about the time personally. So if there's one member who can't make it at 5, then consensus would say that we can't change it, you know. So look, I don't know how. Let's start off by the Zoom one first. So is anyone against continuing for Zoom for at least 3 more meetings? Okay, everyone's in favour of that. So I say that's passed, unanimous. Who would vote for changing it to 5 o'clock? Okay, I think that's so those against would be the rest. So let's say we'll review that in 3 meetings as well. So both we're going on with. So the outcome of that is that we'll continue with Zoom meetings and review it after 3 more meetings, and we won't change the time at this stage. Okay, we move on to the next item, which is the response from the petition, which is 6.3. I open that item for discussion. Anyone like to discuss that or move the motion? Councillor Ewan?
Yeah, I just had a question to the staff, please. Just wondering if we have any information on how much it would cost or what the cost would be to close the road approximately.
One for you, Director.
Well, Chairman, it depends on the frequency. I mean, and the petition calls on us to close the road regularly. So it'd depend entirely on the frequency of the closure. It'd also depend on where we closed it from, whether we were talking from the Huon Road intersection from Bracken Lane or from the Springs. Mr. Fisher can certainly provide information as to what closures cost us when it comes to snow management, but this is sort of a different scenario than that. I guess the issue is more than just closing the road, because closing the road is one thing. It's managing the traffic that don't realise the road is closed is the more significant issue. If a decision was made or is made to close Pinnacle Road anywhere other than at the junction of Huon Highway, and bear in mind, people still need to get access to their properties that live along the road there. Managing the traffic is massive, because people drive up to a lock gate, then have to manoeuvre around and head back down. You know, it can cost anything up to $5,000 a day to have that road closed.
Thank you, Director. And Lord Mayor.
Sorry, can I just have a follow-up question? Just regarding the road, I understand that we're going to be doing, or hopefully be doing, some work on the roads to fix that issue. And I remember one of the tours that we did, Glenn, you were talking about. So, like, was there going to be sort of a turning circle for people to get around up at Bracken Lane? Would this maybe be something that we could reconsider once that work is done, and that would sort of make this a little bit easier? People can still get into their properties. We can maybe close it off once a month then. And would that maybe be something that we could communicate to the community that's asking for this?
I guess, look, Councillor Ewan, obviously the call is yours. Absolutely, Mr. Fisher and his team have already done work at the Springs, which has meant that traffic now, when they reach the springs during times of snow and ice and the road above the springs is closed, the traffic can turn around without the need for us to provide staff there to manage it. So that reduces the cost. We're preparing a design for the potential for a roundabout at Bracken Lane. And as many of you know, we're chasing funding for that. And if we achieve that funding, you're right, it will provide an opportunity for the traffic to then, instead of coming to a lock gate and having to try and turn around, they'll go around a roundabout and back down the road. And so that'll help immensely with traffic flow. There are still lots of issues, however, with regular closure of a road like Pinnacle Road, as the report talks about. The one thing is closing the road. The next thing becomes managing those that are using the closed road. And so I think it's not necessarily as straightforward as the petitioners suggest, but it is absolutely possible and could be revisited when and if we get better traffic infrastructure, for sure.
Good. Look, I intend to just go through committee members first, and then Lord Mayor. Sorry, I gave you the call a moment ago, but I think Alderman Thomas and Deputy Lord Mayor, then you. So start off with Alderman Thomas.
Thanks, Chair. Look, I'm totally against this. This is going to create uncertainty. People won't have any idea which day of the month. Most of the a proportion of that traffic will be tourists. It is one of the most popular attractions in the south of the state. If we suddenly close on a Thursday or a Friday or a Wednesday once a month, it'll create an image and a perception in the mind of many that it's closed often. Albeit when we do have 3 or 4 days of snow closure a year, you see letters to the editor imagining, which would make you think we've closed it off 17 or 20 times a year. This would be a PR nightmare, and I think that's why, as a proud member of the Wellington Park Trust Chairman, and in other situations, that's why we've got walking tracks on the mountain. That's why we have bike tracks. Are we going to change some of those bike tracks to roadways, Chair? I mean, let's be realistic here. We've got one of the best infrastructure of walking tracks on the mountain, and you can walk along concrete streets all over Hobart. You don't need to walk up the Pinnacle Road. You just get onto the tracks. Now, let's just stop this one in its tracks, as it were.
Thank you, Alderman Thomas. Well said. Deputy Lord Mayor, you want to make a comment?
Thank you. I don't know if I'll say it as well as Alderman Thomas, but we'll give it a crack. Look, I just access is an issue for some people. They cannot access some of those other roads because they're in wheelchairs or they have mobility issues. So Look, I wonder, and it's a question through you, Chair, to Mr. Doyle. Is there a possibility where we could schedule particular days of the year, and that may be weather dependent, it may not be, I don't know, but theoretically we could schedule 4 days a year where the road is closed so that people can access it by foot or by wheelchair or whatever. And secondly, my second question is, in events such as Point to Pinnacle, or when the road is actually closed for events, is there not an opportunity to tap into that closure at that time for the general public?
Mr. Doyle.
Let me take the second part of the question first, if I can, Chairman. Certainly, I guess the short answer is yes. However, we always come under extensive pressure to minimise the closure for any event, if it's Point to Pinnacle or wherever. So if we do close it for any particular event, there's huge pressure on us to make sure that the closure for that particular event is minimised and the roads open again as soon as possible. So we'd have to have the event out of the way to then have the road access available for other purposes. So I guess, Deputy, to depend on the event and the timing of the event and so forth, entirely possible. But we just need to make sure that the event is clear before the closure for the other purpose takes effect. I guess the other thing for committee to be aware of is that, we have, I think it's around 200 tourist operators with licenses that operate on the road. So if we've got any sort of planned activity on that road, there's extensive consultation we go through, because those tourist operators are usually pretty small scale, and they have their events organised well in advance. To your first question, look, absolutely. If council made a decision that they wanted us to close the road once a year, twice a year, 4 times a year, and schedule it, we could absolutely do that. Section 4.8 of the report raises a whole range of issues in terms of resourcing, and we'd certainly have to look at the resource implications, but it is entirely possible if that's council's wish.
Good.
Thanks, Chair, and thanks, Mr. Doyle, for that answer. And yeah, I understand there's, it's resource intensive. And just to my point about accessibility, Chair, perhaps this item could be referred to the Access Advisory Committee, because I think, sometimes their input is really valuable. Well, always their input is really valuable when we're considering such things, because it's it's a different perspective that we may not always bring to the reports.
Good, thank you. Lord Mayor, did you still want to make some comments?
Yes, please. Just a yeah, I mean, I think this was an incredibly popular petition. It's one of our larger ones to have more than 1,300 people supporting this idea. So I'd be disappointed if we were to sort of like dismissing it outright without providing perhaps some options, and for if the passion is there from some of these people, perhaps just giving them some information about, what is the process for a road closure? Like, what would the Point to Pinnacle people, if they wanted to create one day in summer, for example, where it was for prams and wheelchairs and people who really want to have the freedom of the road surface and the access to the road surface. Can we at least provide the lead petitioner with an outline of the costs? Because they might crowdfund $5,000 or sell tickets or, and come to us with an application. And I just would rather, empower them with that information rather than just say, no, you're not allowed to, because clearly there are events where people do close the road for races and stuff, and it might not be a race, it might be just a sort of community access day or prams and parents and prams day, because I think there was something that people did appreciate about the road, which is a different experience to the to all of the great tracks. The other thing, I think it's important just to also note in the response to the petitioners that that the need for the sort of a proper parking availability like we're proposing for Hall Saddle. So again, they understand that some of the issues we can't. At the moment, we don't quite have the infrastructure to support this, large numbers, but we're sort of working on it so that we're saying that it's difficult, but here's some more information. So I don't know whether that needs to be included in resolution or whether we can just, if that can just be provided. The other question is whether when the road is closed for winter, and on wintry days, I presume bikes and prams and walkers are allowed to go above the road closure at the moment, are they, Mr. Doyle?
Mr. Doyle, did you get the question?
It depends on the circumstances, Lord Mayor. If the road will be closed for traffic, if the weather conditions are such that people can safely go beyond the gate, then I don't think we'd be restricting them because they could go in any one of the walking tracks. I think we'd need to be careful though if we were going to promote that, because we closed the gate having undertaken a risk assessment. We'd need to be really careful if we're restricting vehicles but encouraging pedestrians that could find themselves trapped in a very unsafe environment. So, but there is no current restriction that prevents them, like it does a gate, that prevents vehicles. And look, to your earlier point, Lord Mayor, if the petitioners wish to organise an event and seek approval for a road closure as would any organised event, then we can certainly treat that accordingly. I think that's different than perhaps council agreeing that once a fortnight or once a month they'll close the road though for general access. And I think that's the key difference. Having an event that's organised by someone who takes responsibility for that event versus the road being closed for general access.
Yeah.
But certainly, Lord Mayor, we can incorporate those messages in the response to the petitioners, absolutely.
Good, thank you. Thank you, Director. Councillor Sherlock, you want to say something or make a comment? No. Okay, look, we haven't got a motion. Alderman Thomas, would you like to move the motion that's on the books and perhaps incorporate a little bit more in 3 to take up the Lord Mayor's?
Yes, I am.
Yes.
I'm happy with that. Thank you.
Yeah, so we'll just add a little bit to 3 to say that besides the council decisions and perhaps outline steps petitioners could do to apply for a road closure. Okay, those in favour? Oh, anyone against? Anyone against?
Sorry.
Is anyone?
Chairman, I just wonder if we can also include that the report be provided to the Access Advisory Committee for comment as well.
Sure.
Yes, look, I think, I'm sorry I missed that. Yes, would you mind including that in your motion, Alderman Thomas?
Happy.
Okay,
Thank you.
Sorry about that, Deputy Lord Mayor. I should have written a note. No, okay, so anyone against that motion now, as amended? Okay, Councillor Ewan, you're okay with that? Sorry, yeah, fine. Okay, so we'll move on. I say the motion is carried as amended unanimously. So we move on to Franklin Square amenities building proposal to install lockers.
Happy to move that.
Thank you very much, Alderman Thomas. I think it's a long time coming and it's well needed. And as the tourists start arriving back in Hobart, a lot of people check out of their hotels or or short stay accommodation and have nowhere to put their luggage. So, and as well as useful for the locals as well. Has anyone got any comments about that? I think it's timely. Okay, anyone against it? Okay, declared it passed unanimously. The committee status report, would someone like to move that? Thank you, Deputy, got in first, I think. So I put that. Anyone against it? No, so I declare that motion carried unanimously. I think we're now on to responses about questions without notice. Would someone like to move that? Thank you, Councillor Ewan. Because we can't have any comments about that one, we have to just put it. Anyone against it? Being none, I declare it carried. And now we come to questions without notice. Anyone questions without notice? And I think the Deputy, and so we start off with the Deputy first. And yeah, Deputy first.
Thanks, Chairman. The new film by Joe Shemesh called Kananyi is now showing at Salamanca Arts Centre, and I wonder if, and I went along to the opening the other day, but couldn't go and see the film just because of time and so forth, and the small sort of viewing area. Could we ask the director to see if we can schedule a meeting, a screening for elected members, please, through this Salamanca Arts Centre, because I think it might be extended since they've lost a Dark Mofo event there.
Thank you. We take it on notice. Yeah. Okay, Councillor Ewan.
Yes, thank you. I'm just wondering if we have any data from the 2 pink boxes that we have installed to inform us on uptake and costing of provision of sanitary products in our toilets.
Chairman, I'll need to take that one on notice.
Good, thank you. Any further questions, Councillor Ewan? Alderman Thomas? No. Councillor Sherlock?
Oh.
No. And Lord Mayor?
Yes, thank you. I've got 2 and I can email these in. So the first one just relates to the Upper Domain area and just around the issues around surveillance, improving surveillance and activation of the Upper Domain area. Could consideration be given to opening the Upper Domain area to the food truck program?
Absolutely happy to take that on notice, Chairman.
Thank you.
Okay. And the second question is just around, there's a number of sporting clubs that require an undercover concrete area for their sport. So it's sports like roller derby, roller hockey, skateboarding, wheelchair, basketball, I think. And my understanding is that they're potentially losing access to their undercover concrete facility in Federal Street. So my question is, 2 questions is, has the city any facilities where roller derby, roller hockey, skate, indoor sort of undercover skateboarding can be undertaken? And the second question is, has the city considered these growing sports in its sports and recreation facility strategy, if we have one? I'm not sure whether we do or are planning to do one.
Chairman, I'll take it on notice, but I'm fairly confident in saying that we have no facilities that would be suitable. We have regular approaches from various groups looking for undercover venues. But look, let me provide a response by taking that question on notice, please.
Thank you. Now that concludes the questions without notice. I need a motion. Do we need a motion to go into? Yes, we do. Item 12 to go into closed. So, Councillor Ewan, thank you.